Now you want to. Okay, ladies, again, welcome to another episode of Woman to Woman with Sherry Orias. I am your host, Sherry Orias. Hello, divas. It is an honor to be here with you guys. Okay, so tonight we're diving into something foundational: identity. Not the identity the world gave you, not the identity trauma tried to shape. But the identity God authored before you ever took your first breath. Okay. A lot of times we get caught up in the wrong things. So before we get going, what I do want you to do is drop in this chat one word that describes how you're feeling coming into this conversation. Okay. Okay. So before we talk about identity, let's acknowledge the masks we've worn. Okay, that's very important. So put a hand up if you've ever worn one of these masks. The strong woman mask, the fine one, the I'm fine mask, the overachiever mask, the people pleaser mask, the I don't need anyone mask. And I can honestly say for myself, I've worn all of these masks at one point in time or another, or even simultaneously. So you're not alone. So what I do want to do, I want to discuss what identity is and what identity is not. Okay. So we're going to start here. Identity is not your trauma. It's not your mistakes. It's not your past relationships, not your job title, not your family expectations, not your survival mode. A lot of times we get caught up in the things or the roles that we play versus and we assume that as our identity. It's not your identity, that's your role. Okay. If you're married and you're a wife, that's not your identity, that's your role. It's an extension of your identity, but it's not who you are, who God says you are. Okay. Now, identity is your God-given design. It's your purpose, it's your voice, it's your spiritual DNA, your assignment, and your authority. Identity is the truth God spoke before the lies of life ever tried to rewrite your story. Okay. So it's who, when he was molding you, creating you, and before he sent you down through, as they used to call, what they call it, the baby golf, to mommy and daddy, it's who he had already orchestrated you to be. And unfortunately, what happens is we come here in that purest capacity, and then the world dumps on us. So therefore now we've disconnected and we don't know. So who told you that? That's a reflection I want you to look at. I want you to think on. Many women are living under labels that didn't come from God. And I'm going to give you an example. Okay. And I want you to take 30 seconds right quick. Write down one identity statement you've carried that came from pain and not purpose. Maybe growing up, your mom, dad said you were stupid. Friends said you were, ugly, or someone in the family said you were the black sheep, or someone said that you'll never amount to anything. All these things we start to assume in identity. They're negative statements that have poured into us, but we actually take them on and as our identity, right? I can speak from my own experience. As I said before, my life was so chaotic, so negative. I took on the identity of Murphy's Law. That was my doing. And I mean, I had help with it, but that was still I bought into it. And by me buying into it, and I programmed my mind to think that, guess what? That's what happened. That was Murphy's Law. Any and everything that could have happened bad would happen. And it did. And if something did happen good, guess what? Didn't last long because Murphy's Law was swooping back in because my mind was programmed for what next? What's going to happen? When is the other shoe going to drop? Right? So I can even speak to my mother. My mother growing up, she was unfortunately told she was the black sheep of the family. And she bought into it to the point that she would tell people, I'm the black sheep of the family. So therefore, she carried that identity and that negativity and that rejection her entire life. And that's something that unfortunately a lot of women do. I don't care if a man told you that. You might have been married and your spouse told you you're no good, you're not a good wife, you're not this or that, you're not all these other things. No, that's not your identity. I don't care what he says. Maybe a friend of yours said something. These are not your identity. These are negative statements that really are being projected on you from someone else's lack of, and you're buying in and you're taking it on. Okay. So now I want you to keep that because we're going to use that later. Okay. But I want you to have it right there and keep it in a safe space. So in your life, what moment made you question who you were? And what truth are you reclaiming now? Write that down, put it somewhere that you want to keep, because that's when you started to awaken your own power. That's when you started to awaken within yourself, right? For me, I can honestly tell you, I got to one point, I kept going through one bad relationship after the other. Nothing worked out. I was always struggling. All these different things kept happening, right? Abusive relationships and money problems and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting here being the best person I could be. I'm a good person. I'm doing, hey, I'm doing right by this person, but they never respected you. They whatever it is, family, friends, people walk away from you, and you keep wondering why this. And I got to a point for myself. I remember I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine, and I was telling her, I was like, you know what? She was going through her own chaotic state too, because she was also in that same cycle of negative thinking, and we were attracting this stuff to us. So she goes and we're having dinner, and we had a conversation, and I just says to her, I said, us and our broken compasses, this is actually what birthed my book, but this is actually what also awakened me to have me start questioning, why am I doomed to keep going through the same situations, or how do you say, same script, different cast? Same situation, might have a different tweak here, might leave something out, but it's still, but nothing, just always constant negative. And I started to ask myself, why, God, what did I do? And it was like he told me, you didn't come to me. You didn't get your identity from me. You're around here walking in what everybody else says that you should be, how you should look, who you are, how you should talk, how you should think, but you never came to me. So therefore, you are out of alignment. And being out of alignment, hey, that's a whole nother conversation. But it is really the base of what happens. But my question is to you, what truth now are you reclaiming of yourself now? Write that down, because that is a moment of empowerment. And that is something that even when you have to reflect, if you have a weak moment, if you have a moment where you're stressing, you're thinking, or you might be scared, or something might be befalling you, right? Go to that. What are you reclaiming? What is your actual truth? What have you heard God say? This is who you actually are. This is who I created. Even if you didn't get the full story, you got something. The fact that hey, he created me for something. That right there. Okay. So I do also want you to write down this affirmation. I am becoming who God designed me to be. Okay. So now what I do want to do is I want to touch on the three layers of identity. Okay. So layer one is your core identity, who you are in God, right? Beloved, I want you to understand one thing: the fact that there's life in your body and you were deemed worthy by the Creator to even exist, come forth in life. You have been chosen. You are loved. You are called and equipped. You are redeemed and you are restored. Now, there's another redeeming that can also happen, but please know the fact that you are here, you're chosen and loved. Okay. And layer two, let's look at the personal identity. Now this comes in where your gifts, your voice, and your story. This is where all of that comes into play. Your creativity, your leadership, your resilience, your brilliance. These are those things that drive you, or the driving force of you, right? So if you're someone who um you can get out here and you can have so much influence over people, that's part of your personal identity because you are an influencer, right? These are gifts that you've been given and you have either learned to enhance, or you have somehow picked up and now they work to your favor and you can use them to work elsewhere in someone else's favor. Now, the layer three is your purpose identity. This is what you are assigned to do. What God has said, okay, this is what, baby girl, baby, this is what I put you here for. This is your purpose. Now, we're all at the base. Yes, we're here to uplift one another, help one another. Yes, but we do it in different capacities. So if your calling is to empower, right? If you are called to build, heal, lead, create, or transform. I mean, even if like the ministers, that's the call, that's a calling, that is their purpose. And that purpose is to actually what? Be a shepherd for God, to bring people to God. So this is where that comes in. And please know that your identity is not stagnant. It is not static at all. Your identity, it evolves as you grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. So you can start in one area or one arena, and lo and behold, before you know it, you might be over into another, or you might be doing both. It's always evolving. Okay, as long as you're working within it, it's going to evolve. Whatever you water grows. What you don't does not. Okay. So earlier I had you write down that false identity. So take that false identity statement that you wrote earlier and now rewrite the truth of it. Rewrite it in truth. And here's an example. I'm too broken to be used. Right? That's a false identity. You're never too broken to be used. So the truth is, my healing is my ministry. Please know your story is not for you and you alone. Your story, it's a double-edged sword. Your story was there to develop something in you, but it was also for you to use to help somebody coming from behind that's going through the same thing and need that understanding, that guidance, that you're not alone. Okay. So please know, everybody wants to come up in my business and keep my mouth quiet and all this other stuff. And no, you shouldn't tell everything but there are actual key things that happen to you in your life that are not for you, not for you only. Trust and know they're for you to develop something in you, but they're also for you to release. God already says everything you have to release. You have to release. Trust and know, and it flourishes. And you'd be surprised by you sharing your story who you might be helping. You never know. I honestly, I can speak from, I think the first time I can say I actually took note or I realized it, and it was not even me going through my story, sharing my story. It was more or less that um there was these two beautiful, beautiful sisters throughout my journey. One as my childhood journey, and one in my young motherhood journey. That um, we were close. We were friends, sisters, and I don't know, because of certain things that I was taught and I went through, and the certain lessons that I've learned when I spoke, and I spoke to them about certain things that they would do, or certain things that had happened or went on in their life, and empowered them how I knew how. And 2 years later, and when I say years, I mean years later, to look and come across these women, and they're thriving, and they are, oh my gosh, they are awesome. They are boss. They are beautiful. And they're out there empowering other people how they empower. And I just reached out and I was like, I'm so proud of you, sis. And for them to say to me, and God, when nothing goes void. Your word, just like God's word, is never void. You do something and you do it for good intentions, God will never let it go void. These two young women said to me, pat yourself on the back. You have something to do with this. Now, mind you, that was not even my thought or anything, right? But I'm saying that to say, even back then when I was not thinking, and I'm way over into my own chaos, but I'm able to say something to help another woman, not even realizing I was just, hey, you know, and then for them to the change that came a part of their life, and the very thing that they said to me was, you had something to do with this. And I could only, that I wasn't looking for, but I was so honored. I was so honored in that moment, because far as that, most of us feel my voice meant nothing. I didn't even have a voice, right? But God showed me how my walk and my talk He was already using back then. Anyway, not to stay there. Um, what I also want to talk on, I want us to do an identity declaration. Okay. So I want you to repeat this after me with power. And anytime you need it, please do so. Okay. We're going to start here. I am who God says I am. And please say all this with authority. Everything God says, we have the power to move mountains. We can tell a mountain to move and it will move. But you have to believe in your authority. If you have the faith of a mustard seed, and I'm bringing in different scriptures, and I know, but my point is, when you read your word and you take from what God says, you'd be surprised how it flourishes in your life. So remember, I am who God says I am. I am not my past. I am not my pain. I am evolving. Please remember that one. No matter what goes on, you are always evolving. I am rising and I am becoming. Okay. Now, what I also want to do, and we're coming to the end of this, ladies, to this talk, I want you to also take into mind, evolution is moving forward. However, evolution can be positive or negative, and that depends on you. We're going to go into, after we finish this series, we're going to really go into the mindset, because the mind is a powerful thing. But I wanted to touch on this right here, because how your mind thinks is going to determine how you evolve. You're either going to evolve positively, negatively. At the same time, you're still moving forward. It's still evolution. It's just what state are you going to be in? And the mind is the most powerful organ in the body, right? The mind is so powerful, it can actually produce what they call phantom pregnancies. It can actually, if a woman believes so hard that she's pregnant, she's with child, that it would make the body work and develop in such a way as if she was. Give her the symptoms and everything, right? A person can be so caught up in being sick that honestly they can take themselves right, they can think themselves right up out of here. Please know, so a man thinketh, so shall he is. So remember, the mind is one of the most powerful. The tongue is as well, but I want you to look at your mind, because what your tongue speaks comes from your mind. What's in your mind and your heart, and those two are they tie together. But your mind is so powerful, it can attract good, it can attract bad. So I don't want to hold you long. Like I said, this was just something I wanted to talk on. This is the first in our series of identity. We will be back next Sunday to go further in identity and how to unpack, also how it ties in with the mind, and then positive and mind renewal, because it's not as easy as it seems. It sounds easy, but it's not. But I do want you ladies to know that you are my sisters. I love you. I see you. I support you. And when you shine, I shine, and vice versa. Okay. So I asked you today, love yourself, love another woman, empower another woman, because empowered women empower the world. So thank you again for tuning in to Woman with Sherry Orius. I am Sherry Orius. Thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you. Have a good night.